Hello, my friend. Welcome to another episode of Fantasy Turf War. I am the Commissioner, Cory, and have another exciting interview for you today. We have Casey Wooley, and his company is called Magical Memories by Casey, and we'll link to all those in the show notes, of course. Casey and I are good friends, and we've been friends for a number of years. We're both big Disney nuts, as you'll be able to tell from the interview, and excited to introduce him to y'all and welcome him into the league. He's number 2 of 64, so we have quite a bit of interviews to still crank out. I'm going to be doing those fairly regularly, so make sure you're subscribed and all that. And excited to see what this league's turning into, and we are still open. So if you watched the live show last week, we do have a few open spots that we left on purpose in case some of the audience at home wanted to join in. So make sure you email us at fantasyturfwar.com, and we'll take care of you there. But we wanted some viewers from home who may not have had the chance to hear about us or gotten word of us before yet to still have the opportunity to partake. So let us know, and we'll get you taken care of, and we'll get locked into all 64. But without further ado, let's meet Casey Wooley. All right, my friend Casey, how you doing today?
Hey, Cory, how's it going?
So far, so good. How about yourself?
It's good. At least it's not raining today. Yesterday it was raining pretty hard here in Chicago. So today it's a little bit more gloomy, but no rain.
That's good. Yeah, I miss my Chicago and the Chicago hot dogs and the Chicago pizza.
Are you a sport pepper guy on your Chicago hot dogs, or do you prefer it without the pepper?
I'll eat the pepper. Yeah, yeah.
I'm
I'll eat
not I'm not a
Parmesan.
spice guy, so I,
Okay.
I always get it without the sport pepper, but I agree. Being a transplant from Michigan, I really enjoy the Chicago hot dog. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and Portillo's it's starting to spread out now, but it's not quite
Yeah,
the
you
same
guys,
as
there's one down in Orlando now, right?
there's two in Orlando.
Wow. Okay. All right. I remember when they made that jump. They got one in Michigan too now, so my friends
Ah.
can experience it.
Yep. Look at that. 10 seconds in, we're already talking about food. This is gonna be great.
Lou Mangello would be proud.
Yeah, he would. Okay, so Casey, glad to have you in Fantasy Turf War this year. Looks like we're on the verge of something great here, and really excited to have you part of it. And wanted to get to know you a little bit today. And so we're going to start with your professional career and like tell us, as a travel agent, how'd you get started in that, and kind of where did that come from?
All right, I'm going to kind of use a go with me here for just a moment. Okay, so travel agency is for me. The travel agent career is just under 2 years old. I have been a professional trainer and facilitator for over half my career. Been in retail for all of my career, and right around 2014, I was looking for a secondary job, and I ended up finding a part-time job at the Disney store. And I worked for the Walt Disney Company for 6 years of my life, part time. I worked my way up to lead cast member. I actually won lead cast member of the year in 2019. I want to say it was for the North Market, and I loved it. I also listen to a lot of Disney podcasts. You and I both enjoy Lou Mangello, the WDW Radio. That is one that we probably both listen to, but I listen to other ones. And around that time, around that time, I was listening to a podcast of travel agents who talked about the parks, and one of them, her name was Chris. She broke off and formed her own agency, and for years she kept saying, "You should come work for me." And I said, "Well, I'm working for the Walt Disney Company. It'd be a conflict of interest." But COVID hit. I ended up giving up the Disney career, took my new job where I'm at now, found myself with some extra time on my hand, and I finally went to her 2 years ago and said, "Hey, I think I'm ready to make this jump. I would love to see what it's about." And here we are, just about 2 years in, 2 years in July actually, and I have become pretty good at it. I'm actually quite happy with it. So I work for a company called Main Street and More Travel. As part of working for who they are, we're an authorized agency, and that means that Disney has authorized us to sell their product, and we work under their rules. I also sell Universal. I sell cruise lines. I sell all inclusives like sandals and beaches. And doing this, I work for her, but I work for myself, if that makes sense. She gets a portion of my commission, but otherwise the rest is mine. And in the last 2 years, I'm proud to say I've sold over $500,000, $500,000 in travel so far.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. and it's a part-time thing for me, and it's a lot of fun because I get to help people go down to Disney. I mean, you and I both share a mutual appreciation for the mouse and that feeling you get when you walk into the parks. And I get to help people plan that, and I get to help demystify the process because, as anyone who's ever taken a Disney trip knows, it can be a little confusing if you don't know what you're doing.
That is true. Yeah,
So,
it almost seems like there needs to be like a preparatory course these days of like
a master's degree.
how to do, yeah, the how to get
Yep.
there and how to do it, because it's one of those things that if you can show up, but you're not going to have nearly as good of a time and
Well,
return
and
for your investment.
that's kind of where my story is. The very first trip I ever took to Disney, my partner Nate took us in 2010, and we made all those first timer mistakes. We didn't know we had to make dining reservations. We didn't know what Fast Pass was at the time. We didn't know to rope drop. Like all these things that you know as you go. That's what I try to tell my clients, right?
Yeah,
And I think the second thing that people don't realize about travel agents, Corey, is it costs you nothing extra.
yeah,
Nothing extra. You
yeah.
don't
So
have to plan your trip at all. At all. 100% free to you are my services, but you get my years of expertise. I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
no, you're hitting on all those points that I wanted to bring up. So I think as of time of recording, I think you're our only travel agent in the league. So I wanted to ask,
Woo!
what are the benefits? So we hit on a huge one already in that it costs the user nothing to get these extra
Yeah.
services. What are the other benefits that having a travel agent representing you? What benefits does that provide someone who may not have ever had one before?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually, for every client who ends up traveling with me, I send them, even before they end up traveling with me, every client who ends up considering booking with me, I send them the top 10 reasons they should use a travel agent. So
Oh,
if you allow me for a moment, I will give you my top 10. We all love top 10s around here.
oh yeah.
So number one, of course, is pay nothing extra. So you don't have to pay a fee. If you ever have a travel agent saying, I'm going to charge you X amount, they're not an authorized agent. There are agents out there who do that, but why do that? The venues themselves pay us, which is what's fantastic. So when you book through me, I handle everything on your behalf, and then either Disney or Universal or the cruise or the all inclusive or whatever pays me for my services. Number two, I'm your own personal researcher. So, like, you don't have to research. Now, if you want to, I'm not going to take that away from you. I have clients that range from, I want to do everything myself and I just want you to book. And I'm like, okay. Or I want you to do everything for me and then book. And I'm like, I can do that too. And I'm a big believer in giving you options and being very transparent about what I'm showing you so you know exactly what you're paying for right up front. So number two, I'm your own personal researcher. Number three, and I know you'll appreciate this, you're supporting a small business. Like, I'm not some big behemoth company, right? Like, it's me. The money that I earn from doing this goes a to pay for my own vacations because that's fun, but it also helps me, for example, renovate my deck right now. I'm redoing my deck, refurbing it. The money that I'm making from a few of the trips that are traveling this summer are paying for that. So you're not paying a small business, you're not paying a large corporate, you're paying a small business. And to that point, you pay the same price with Disney that you pay if I book it. So in other words, Disney keeps that profit if you don't use a travel agent. That's a way to think about that too.
Yep.
Um, Number four, accessibility when you need it. What I mean by that is I'm always accessible. Text, call, email. I will answer your response in less than 24 hours, usually immediately, and you're going to get an answer. Number five, you're not going to forget deadlines. We were just talking about with Disney. There's a lot of things to remember. The 60-day mark to plan your advanced dining reservations. The 30-day mark to make your final payment. Right. The 7 a.m. making sure you do your virtual queue. You're not going to forget deadlines because I'm going to remember that for you. I have a ton. Number six is access to recommendations based on my experience. I've been over 2 dozen times to Disney. I've been to Universal a number of times. I've got a lot of recommendations, plus an agency of 90 agents that I can turn to if I don't know the answer.
Wow.
I think one of the other big ones is you always are going to have the best promotion. So number seven, a lot of people are afraid to book because they think the price might change or there might be a better deal. Well, with any place that I book, if a better deal comes along, I automatically apply it to your reservation for you. So you're always getting the best promotion. I
How
had a
cool.
client. last year, I want to say when the dining promo came out, I think I saved her like $1,700 on her trip
Wow.
because of what the promo was. Yeah, it was insane.
And again,
Um,
no cost to the user, and you're saving her
no
money.
cost to the user whatsoever. Absolutely. Here's one of my personal favorites. I wait on hold for you so you don't have
Yeah.
to. Sometimes you got to call and there's a 45-minute hold. I'm going to do that on your behalf. Number nine,
Wow.
you have somebody with insider knowledge. And number 10, your trip is going to be flexible based on your wants and needs. I don't apply a cookie cutter approach. I've got a client right now that I'm quoting who's looking to go down in January. She's got a family of 10. She wants 5 different rooms and she's looking at a couple different resorts. So, okay, let's figure out what are the best options. Is it all-star music? Is it art of animation? Is it an off-property resort? You give me the boundaries of what you're looking for, and I'm going to craft the perfect trip for you.
That's cool. And again, no cost to the user. So
No
that
cost
just
user.
seems like a win-win for everybody. And especially with after COVID and times financially people are not doing so well these days. Maybe not everybody is in saving every dollar possible always is just a huge benefit to everybody, and having someone
Absolutely.
looking out for you. And like I said, do you want to support a small business, or do you want to give that profit to the corporation? And obviously I'm a small business guy, you're a small business guy, so we have our preferences, but seems like a win-win all the way around. But I'm not familiar with, you kept saying there's another park in Orlando. I've never heard of it, but
You've still got that little brother down the street. I'm telling you, man. I am telling you, for value wise, I don't know the last time you went to Universal, but from a value perspective, they've got some amazing value in their hotel. I mean, they compete with Disney on every level. I know a lot of people don't like to think about that. I'd say the only level they probably don't compete with is maybe the level of customer service that Disney gives.
okay,
But I will tell you, Epic Universe next year
it
is
looks
going to
gorgeous.
fundamentally change the theme park landscape. As our pal Connor Brown, he actually did a podcast episode about it, which then I did a podcast episode about it because it's that big of a deal. So,
Yeah.
but yes, it's that park that shall not be named down the street.
Yeah, I piggyback off of our mutual friend Lou's, not understanding that other park. I think the only time I've ever been there was 2009, so it's been quite a while.
Yeah,
And my oldest son is obsessed with dinosaurs, and so we have to go
Jurassic
get on
World. Yeah.
Velocicoaster next time we go. So, it's,
I went to Universal Hollywood in
oh,
October
okay.
and got to experience Super Nintendo World over there.
I've heard
And I
great
will tell
things.
you, it is pretty amazing, and it's only going to be that much better when they bring on the Yoshi ride over here in Orlando, and of course Donkey Kong
Donkey
Country.
Kong.
Come on, man, Donkey Kong Country. Anyway, I
Yeah,
digress.
yeah, and we love Mario Kart over here, so
Yes.
it's gonna be a awesome time. Although traffic could get kind of crazy, if it's not already, it'd probably get a little worse over there. But
Yeah.
it is what
It's
it
going to be
is.
interesting to see how Disney responds. I know that Iger has basically said that the last 10 years has been a build up to this because they've known about it for 10 years. That's all fine and good, but I think D23 we're going to see some fireworks. I do.
Oh, I will have to bow out of that conversation for
Uh-oh.
now, but we can
Why is that? Why is that?
well, so it's no secret, right? We are both in that world. We both know things. So like it's just one of those, like, I can speculate, but it's not fair to speculate because it's sometimes you know a little bit more insight than
Oh
than
yeah,
me.
absolutely fair. No, I honestly don't know anything at all other than to say that I do think that D23 we're going to see some stuff that I would be completely flabbergasted if we don't.
Yeah,
But
I think
that's my
that's
pure
definitely,
speculation.
yeah. I say that's definitely fair. It's like they have to say something. It's just a question of what that is. I don't
Yes.
know.
Because the
Well,
last D23 was a big disappointment, I think, in terms of announcements. So,
yeah, I think people were waiting for it, and then it
yep,
didn't happen.
yep.
Anyway, so
All right,
let's
back to this. Yes.
since we're on the Disney topic, I get a feeling you might be a little obsessed back there with the collection of yours. I see the keys. I actually just found my keys yesterday. So what are some of the highlight items in the collection, if you will?
So, okay, first of all, this room is a disaster right now. It doesn't look too bad from the angle that you're on, but trust me when I tell you it is a disaster. I actually recently cleaned up some of this. Really, I think three main collections that actually have a theme are number one, all of my Mickey plush. I've got on this side of me an entire display of Mickey. Behind me, I've got Mickey back there. I've got Mickey to the left of me. I've probably got at least 100 different plush of
Wow.
Mickey through. I mean, just different ones. I mean, whether it's his 90th anniversary one, a bunch of Pride ones, Sorcerer Mickey. I always collect Sorcerer Mickey. As a subsection of that, I also have my Oswald the Lucky Rabbit collection. I am obsessed with Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. He is my absolute favorite Disney character. So if I can come across him, I will do that. And then the other subsection of that is my orange bird plush. I have any orange bird that is out there. I even got the lounge fly orange bag. This guy you
Ah,
could not find. I have
right.
to give credit to a fellow Momentum person, Brittany Belts, was able to get me one of
Ah.
these. My WDW shopper. Sorry, I'm going to plug her real quick. Okay. Anyway, and she's not an eBay shopper, so she doesn't go and like charge exorbitant prices. Let's just be
Yep.
very clear. Okay.
She's great.
Secondly, is the key collection. So you mentioned that. So fun story about the key. So do you know the story behind the Disney key
I know
collection?
that I know. So I have quite a few. I
Uh huh.
stopped after a while because I think they just started putting them out there all the time. I know the original key was the Disney Store, and you had to be one of the first ones to open it up. But
Yep.
I don't. I'm not sure if there's a bigger story to that.
There is. So, okay, so the original Disney key was, like you said, the one that could open up the Disney store, and you got it if you were the guest who was the opening day cast member at any Disney store, pretty any much IP Disney store across the country. You used the big key, then you got that, or you got the pin, right?
Yep.
So, then sometime around 2017. Jonathan Story, I don't know if you know who Jonathan Story is, but he was the VP of Disney Stores, very instrumental, worked for the company for 30 plus years, right? He he came up with this idea of giving these keys away with purchase, right? So the very first key, other than that Disney Store key, was the Mickey key, which they only had 100 per store, and the first 100 people to make a purchase got the Mickey key. I was lucky enough to be able to get one of those working at the store at the time, and at the time I was just going to put it on my tree as an ornament, right? And it fed this desire in me. And then they came out with like the Donald Duck one, and then there was the
Yep.
Frozen one, and then before you know it, they started selling them. So it wasn't
Yeah.
just a giveaway anymore, they started selling them. Then at D23, I want to say D23 2019, maybe, they had a D23 version of the key. And
Yep.
again, Jonathan designed this thing. This was his design. Well, in 2020, as a thank you, and at this point, I was still a cast member, but we were all furloughed at that point. As a thank you to cast members, he gave all cast members a Disney Store cast member specific key. It's probably the rarest of all the keys
Is it
out
the
there.
Stitch one?
No, that is one of them. Let me see if I can grab this thing real quick if I can find it. Hold on 1 second. Hold on.
Sure.
He designed this one himself, and it's specifically modeled
Oh yeah.
after
The Disney
modeled
Store.
after the exactly. And there's a letter from Jonathan saying
Wow.
thank you and all this stuff. So this is probably one of my most prized possessions because you can't buy it. And he issued this probably 3 months before the demise of the Disney Store across the country. So I'm very proud to hold this in my possession, along with the probably 100 other keys I have. So that's that one. And then the other collection, which real quick, I also collect Disney pins as well. Thing with pins, I learned a long time ago, you can't collect every single one of them. It's just not possible. So
Yep.
collect the ones that matter to you, and so that's what I've done.
Yep, that is true. I tried that with Funko Pops for about a day and a half and realized
Ooh,
not
good
going to
lord.
happen.
No, no, it's not. And the thing is with any Disney merch, and I will tell this to anybody out there, don't collect it because you think it's going to be worth something someday. That's not why you
Right.
collect it. You collect it because it makes you feel good. In the event that you sell it because it's worth money someday, hey, good for you. But that's not how it works.
Yeah. Nope. Especially yeah, and yeah, it's there's too many things out there, and you never know which one's going to hit. So it's like you would
Yeah,
probably end up
I get
lost.
random friends and family who will literally send me pictures. Hey, saw this at a garage sale, picked it up, thought it might be worth something. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, not worth anything. You know, the VHSs or what. It's like, no, it's not. Just by having the name Disney, but talk about brand value, man.
Yeah,
To be able
that's
to
true.
have that brand value, that's pretty insane.
That is very true. Yeah, I have a few of the exclusive Disney keys. We'll have to cross collections and figure out who's.
Yeah, definitely. No, I when they did that whole attraction main event attraction release a couple years ago where they had the plush and the keys and the mugs and the pins, I made the decision I was just going to do the keys. That was, and
Yeah.
I was able to do every single one. I think I had to eBay one of them because it sold out so quick. But other than that, I got every one off of Shop Disney.
Yep, and I do believe I have that Expo one, and I think the Disney Plus one. Yeah, I don't know, I've got a few of them.
The Expo one's the one I'm missing. That's the one I need. I need the D23 one.
Uh
I've
oh.
got I've got the opening day one, which I was able to get off of eBay, but the Expo one, man, on eBay, it's like goes for $200. Like it's impossible to get. Yeah. So
Ouch.
I had a friend who was a Disney Store cast member, was a regional actually, who I thought was going to be able to get me one, but was never able to get it from her. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yep. All right.
Hmm.
Anyway.
I have to look through my trades and. No, just kidding. I don't know. We'll see. I've been downsizing the collection, so that might be.
Oh well, let's chat.
Yeah.
Let's chat.
Let's see. I can't help you on the league though. Like I can't offer you a good trade. I'm not playing, so there's no incentive here. So let's bring it back then. So travel agency wise, going back to let's say all the Orlando parks. What's your favorite park?
Disney's Hollywood Studios.
Okay, that's interesting. That's usually not the one I hear. It's usually Magic Kingdom or Epcot. Why Hollywood Studios?
First of all, it's the most beautiful park at night. The neon, the lights, the architecture. And I've told this story on my podcast before. Part of it is a sentimental reason. So I told you the first time we ever went to Disney was 2010. Nate took me, my partner took me. We went for 3 days. We made every single mistake possible. Hollywood Studios was the park that we were there for the very final night of our trip. It was hot. It was rainy. It was muggy. It was 100 degrees. And we were told we have to see this amazing show called Fantasmic, right? So we're waiting in line. We're waiting in line to see Fantasmic for the first showing, and an announcement comes over the loudspeaker saying that the first showing had been canceled because the dragon had broken down. And we had the option of waiting again to see the second showing. It might be up, or we would disperse the line. Nate and I, again, hot, just muggy, decided, you know what, we're going to wait in line to see the second showing, thinking we had to wait in this line to see the show, right? So we ended up waiting 4 hours at Hollywood Studio, and the second showing got canceled as well.
No.
So we never actually got to see Fantasmic. But what I do remember is by the time they canceled as we were walking back and the park was closed, we're walking down Sunset Boulevard holding hands, lights are up, it's cool, there's a breeze, people are smiling. I will never forget that feeling that I had, that moment of, I've got to come back. That my adventure here is not done. So that's where that comes from. And honestly, Hollywood Studios, in my opinion, is the perfect park. It is the perfect park. It's not so busy that it's overly crowded like Magic Kingdom. It's not so large that it's so spread out where half the park is just drinking around the world. I don't mind drinking, but I am not a drinker around the world guy, right? But it is the perfect park. You can go to Hollywood Studios and spend the entire day there and never have to do the same thing twice. Like there's so much to do there. It wasn't always like that. There was a period there when they were building Galaxy's Edge I was a little worried about because things were, I mean, there just wasn't a lot. It really was a half day park at the time. But then Toy Story Land came in, and then Galaxy's Edge came in. You have to want to do everything that they've got there. You know, you can't be too proud to go and sit in the Frozen sing along or watch the Beauty and the Beast on stage or go on Star Tours a couple of times to ride different versions to ride or check out Indiana Jones. Heck, when we were there with my nieces and nephew, the Disney Junior Stage Show was a blast. The Lightning McQueen Academy. Have you done that one yet? That's a blast. It's a blast. It's so much fun. So yeah, I love Hollywood Studios. I think there's something fun about it. I do miss the sorcerer hat though. I miss it so.
All
I
right.
miss it.
So I
Yes.
love Sorcerer Mickey's my favorite. Fantasia
I
and
can see.
Fantasmic and all of that. So I'm a huge lover of the Sorcerer hat. I know that is not necessarily a popular opinion, but
No, it's not. It's
I
not.
get it. I loved it while it was there, but I understand why it's gone. Wish they would, just let me buy it or something, but I don't know where I'd put it. House would
Who
be
knows
cool.
where it wound up? Yeah.
So awesome. Okay, so favorite park is Hollywood Studios. What would make your favorite resort then?
Oh, that's a tough one. Wow. So I can say that I have been to every single value resort, and I have
Okay.
been to every single. I've done every moderate resort at this point. Every moderate except for Caribbean Beach, which is ironic because that's where I send most of my clients because I think it's the perfect resort for a moderate price.
Oh, okay.
Um, I would say I really can't pick favorite, but what I will tell you, my dream resort that I want to stay at, that's a bucket list, is the Grand Floridian.
Okay.
I have wanted to stay at the Grand Floridian ever since I watched Uncle Jesse serenade Aunt Becky on Full House. So that is a bucket list. I did stay at my first ever deluxe resort at Walt Disney World back in March. I stayed at Animal Kingdom Lodge and loved it. It was absolutely gorgeous. And I've also stayed at the original OG resort, the Disneyland Hotel over in California too. So
Very
yeah,
cool.
yep,
Yeah, we grew up as an all star family, so we've done all the all stars. I do want to go to Art of Animation. We did the Skyliner around, and that place just looks beautiful.
yeah.
And then
Movie All Star Movies was my first resort, and it's got a special place in my heart. It really
yeah,
does. And music's absolutely beautiful too. Sports is good if you just want a good value, but you don't like. Sports is kind of like the red roof of Disney in my mind. It really is. Art of Animation's a blast. Pop Century, you know what? Pop is underrated. I prior to the Skyliner, I don't think Pop really was worth what Pop was worth. But now that it's on the Skyliner route, it's a good alternative to Art of Animation because you can just walk across the way,
yep,
right, to see Art of Animation. Moderate wise, I tell you, the cabins at Fort Wilderness are one of my favorites. I know they're DVC now, but I love them. The cabins. They were some of my favorite uh, resorts.
yeah. I've heard a lot of good things about the cabins, and then we love we usually go to Chef Mickey's, and so the Monorail Contemporary is usually a good spot for us too. But
Absolutely.
haven't stayed at the Contemporary, but we've been there quite a bit.
I walked through it. I don't know. I don't have this compelling need to stay at the Contemporary other than it's walking distance to the Magic Kingdom. But to be honest with you, that takes out the ride of the monorail. Like the monorail is one of the best parts of like being over there. I would love to stay at the Wilderness Lodge too. I think that looks like a lot of fun too. And it's just celebrating its 30th anniversary.
I saw that. Cool. All right, good choices, I think. All right. So we've gone over your collection. We've gone over your top tens, your resorts, your theme parks. Let's talk shop. Let's talk fantasy football, right? So fantasy
Sure,
turf war, 64 teams. It's nothing to joke about. It's some heavy competition.
it is.
You bring about 5 years total experience to the table, so that's pretty commendable. I'd say it's about middle of the pack. We've got some people who have none, and some people who have 30, which means that they were doing it back in the pencil days. Kid
Jeez.
pencils. Those are the things that you have to write with. Never mind. All right. So
uh,
5 years experience. The real question is, how many championships you got?
they haven't gotten any. So I've played typically in a friends league that's had my goodness, how many people have been in this league? Probably between 10 and 12 people, I want to say, under most
Okay.
circumstances. I'm not a big football guy. I'm going to be very honest with you. I'm not a big sports guy in general. I know enough about it because my brother, who I'm also trying to get in the league, I've got to figure out what's keeping him so long. But my brother is a sportscaster. He's a sportscaster from Michigan. He's broadcast
Oh,
sports nationally, regionally, locally. He's a huge football guy.
okay.
And my best friend Gary, who I also tried to get in, but he said no. He is probably the biggest football fan. Like he will rival anybody you put up. Like, and so because of that, I know enough about sports and I know enough to understand. And I think what attracts me to fantasy football is the operational stuff of it. Like
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the person who's going to go and research the stats of every player. I'm going to be very honest. That's not me. I'll go off of name recognition. I'll look at some stats a little bit, but I'm not the one who spends hours upon hours. But what I do enjoy is what you're doing. Like I actually kind of envy you in the commission or position because that's the kind of stuff that I love to do.
Same
So
here.
Um,
Clearly.
to the point that when I was in college, do you remember the show Survivor? You ever
Oh,
watch
of
the show
course.
Survivor? So back when I was in college, it was kind of just getting started, and there were such things as fantasy Survivor, and I ran a couple of fantasy Survivor leagues at the time with people from all across the country. It was kind of cool.
Huh.
Anyway, though, so no championships. I actually got close. I want to say I definitely got into the playoffs one year, and I think I made a run about midway through and
Okay.
like lost semifinals or something like that. I think that was the case. Um, and I'm going to do some different things this time around, I think, than I have. It's been a couple of years since I've been in. I think for me, the camaraderie part of it, which is why I asked you about like the community and being able to just talk to one another, that part I really enjoy. The gloating, I think, sometimes can be fun too. Of course, you have to take it on the other end as well. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think there's some camaraderie there, which is I'm looking forward to. And I also think in terms of this, I'm just really interested to see kind of how all this plays out in this new type of fantasy that you're doing.
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? So this is actually the seventh year that we've done this type of league where we have the 64 teams, but all the previous years were done on paper, Excel, and PowerPoint. And it was like a weekly newsletter, and we had to manually do all of this. And it's just kind of by random circumstance, we found a way to do this, via software. And now I don't have to do any math, so I'm loving this. I get to say that like every interview, so I love it.
I love
But
it. That's
but you're
great.
right. I have to remain unbiased, so I'm not playing this year. But all of my enjoyment comes from running the league and putting the teams together and building this out. So it's been a lot of fun. But yeah, that's what makes fantasy football great is the community aspect, the shit talking, the I won, and then the yeah, not this week I didn't, and then
Yeah.
I have I love that part. I go. I think I've mentioned this a couple times now. But I went from worst to first in the season. Ended up winning the league. Like just it,
Wow.
and I let the entire family know that that was their fault. I should not have won that league, and I let them have it for it.
Well, I think that's one of the cool things about this is that because you're dealing with actual performance of real humans, and there are so many variables, you can't hack this. Like there's no way to hack fantasy football unlike other types of video games or online. There's ways to hack, there's ways to cheat. There are certain ways you can cheat in this, although it sounds like we've got a pretty good boundaries in regards to this. But like you don't like the player you chose, okay, go out and try to find another one and and
Yep,
and see what's happening. This is a real, it's a human based type game, and I think that's the reason why it's lasted for as long as it has, because people find that it's very much a human factor involved.
very true. And I did run one league last year just to test. AI didn't help me at all, so not a thing.
I am anti AI. I make no bones about it. Although I will tell you, it is kind of fun to carry on a random conversation with the AI on Facebook. Have you tried it yet?
I've
It is.
not.
It is. It is completely random. It really, really is. Yeah. And like you can tell him to stop talking to me, and he'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'll stop talking now." Like it really is kind of funny. So, anyway, go ahead.
Cool. Well, I will probably avoid that one. I'd say I'd try it, but I don't know if I should.
That's fair. I respect that.
All right. So one last thing we've got to cover on your football knowledge and realm there is we've got to talk about the elephant in the room, and that you are from the we'll say western suburbs of Illinois,
Yep.
and I happen to notice you are a Lions fan,
Yep.
which growing up in Chicago, I feel like that is not something that is allowed in that territory. So how do you work through that?
Well, okay, so the only greater sin than being a Lions fan in the city of Chicago is being a Packers fan in the city of Chicago. So let's be
There.
very honest there to start, okay? So, okay, as I mentioned earlier, I am a transplant from Michigan to the Chicago suburbs, okay? I've been out here since 2013. I moved out here for work, and so I'm not officially a Chicagoan in the sense that I am originally from here. I'm originally from Detroit. So I'm originally from a little city in the Detroit area called Westland. It's kind of halfway in between Detroit and Ann Arbor for you U of M fans out there. And of course, when you're from Detroit, you have the Lions. And every Detroiter, every Michigander knows the absolute love-hate relationship that you have with the men in Honolulu Blue, the Detroit Lions. Now, as I mentioned earlier, I am not the biggest sports guy in the world. I don't sit and watch games every weekend. That's just not my thing. But I do know that being from Detroit, you rooted for the Lions. And my brother, Ryan, is one of the biggest Lions fans. My best friend, Gary, is one of the biggest Lions fans out there. Very early on, and Ryan's probably when he got, I want to say, into out of high school into college, maybe in high school, he realized that the Lions were not exactly the best team to root for. And so he kind of moved on to the Philadelphia Seahawks. I think that's who they are, right?
Eagles.
Seahawks or Eagles. Sorry.
Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you. It's the Eagles. He moved on to the Eagles and became a huge fan of the Eagles. And I think they even won a Super Bowl, if I'm not mistaken, during the period when he became a fan, right?
Yep.
So that said, I think part of it for me with the Lions is the story, and it's actually very similar to what the Cubs fans have gone through in the city of Chicago, where the Cubs had this and they've had this curse that lasted for literally up until the year 2016 when they had the chance and they finally did win the World Series. And I remember the electricity in the city of Chicago when that happened, right? The Lions have not won a Super Bowl or a championship since the Super Bowl program has been an invention. They're one of very few original teams, if not the only one, who has not won a Super Bowl in this system, right? So, and I think the story is watching people who have grown up and then they've had kids and then they've had kids to kind of like, this is this thing that is on the horizon that they really, really, really want to see at some point. Yeah. All peaking last year. We cannot talk about the Lions without what happened last year and the progression. And I remember last year, their first regular season game, they won, which is unusual for the Lions because they don't always win their first season game. Let's be honest. And then they won. I think they won again, and then they lost, and they won again. But it was like this. I remember saying to Nate and Ryan even going, something's different this time. Something feels different this time. I can't put my finger on it, right? Yeah. And then it just kept happening. And there were moments of weakness and moments of, you would hear people say, same old Lions, but not really. It wasn't the same old Lions. Then they get to the playoffs, right? Yeah. And then they win the playoff game. I have, other than a few Super Bowls, I have never sat through and watched an entire football game my entire life. Like, it's very few and far between. That first playoff game, man, I was glued to my flipping TV. I was glued. And the M&M spot, right? And the person who's been the season ticket holder for literally 50 plus years. Like those, again, I'm a very people relationship oriented person, if you can't tell. And those are the stories that I think just touch my heart. And granted, I could probably look into any franchise and find similar situations. Okay. The difference is the Lions, they won it bad. Yeah. And I can't say I'm a fair weather fan because I'm not really a fan at all. I'm just a lay observer who finds the Lions story compelling. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think having been heard your story now, I think you're a fan. I think that makes you a fan. I think you come from a good place of passion and support and like you genuinely love the team. I think it's safe to say you're a fan, and that's okay. I am.
Yeah, different type of fandom, but I'll take it, I guess. Yeah.
Just don't let your neighbor know because they're probably a Bears fan. But
I don't know. You don't have a lot of Bears fans around here in Chicago right now. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, like I said, I grew up in Chicago, so I'm actually
when you ask someone and they say they're a Bears fan, they kind of like do this, like Bears fan, they kind of like hide themselves a little bit. So yeah.
Say I grew up supporting the Bears, but I am actually a Raiders fan, so similar upbringing. Okay. I was just raised that way.
All right.
But I didn't grow up loving the Bears. I grew up supporting the Bears because they're your home team. But I did grow up hating the Packers. I just got that natural hatred in there. So yeah, there's
See,
some
Matt,
common
I
ground.
think Matt, once you have your interview with Matt, I think he's a Packers fan. So
He
so I think
is.
it'll be an interesting conversation with him.
Ugh. All right. It's unhealthy obsession with cheese with those guys up there. So
Hey, I like cheese. Come on now.
I like cheese, just not on everything.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
All right. So you bring 5 years of football experience, but you've yet to sit on the throne. But you have affectionately named your fantasy football team this year the Magic Makers. Is that right?
That is correct. Yeah, the Magic Makers. And the biggest reason for that is it harkens back to the original name I had when I first played, the Yin Sid Magic Makers. But in addition to that, because I am a travel planner and I make magic, I help plan the magic for people. I thought it'd be a good way to continue, kind of continue the brand, if you will.
I like it. I like it a lot. All right. So we've covered fantasy football. Let's kick it into overtime. We've got 3 questions. Every team gets the
Okay.
same 3, and it's always interesting to see where you guys take this.
Oh,
They're
good Lord.
completely random. For the audience at home, you've had no preparation. There's no cheat sheets, no Googling. All right. Question number 1. Are you ready?
I hope.
Do you believe in aliens?
Do I believe in aliens? No, I do not. I don't. I believe that as a born again Christian, I have a really hard time believing that there are aliens out there. I believe that God has a purpose for us and that He has created us to be very specific to who we are on this planet. If they are out there, I don't believe it's His intention for us to ever find them.
Hmm. Okay. Good answer.
So I had to think about it because it's scientifically all the science points that there could be extraterrestrial life out there, but in my mind, if there is, why we haven't found it yet or why they haven't found us yet, it just leads me to believe that we're never really destined to be able to find that. I guess I don't know. Yeah.
Hmm.
So no, I do not believe in aliens.
Okay. It's a good point, right? If they're out there, I
I,
think.
I like the I like the idea of the hope of aliens. Like, and then maybe this is gonna get a little too deep for you, but like I like that people hope that there might be other life out there because it gives us something to aspire to or to think
Oh, sure.
about or to think that there's something bigger than us. But I think I find that in other things. I find that in my faith. I find that in loving one another. I find that in helping other people aspire to greatness in their own life. That I don't necessarily need that third party element out there.
I like it. Yeah, that's a good answer. All right. Question 2. What
Goodness.
you
Okay.
might you might be out of options for this answer, but what
Okay.
is the most unusual item in your office, and what's the story behind it?
The most unusual item in my office and the story behind it. Oh man. Hold on. Let me look around here and see if I have anything that is unusual. Uh, I don't know. I guess I interpret. Uh,
As
I
everyone
interpret.
interprets unusual differently, and I
Yeah.
found
So
some
yeah.
crazy
So I'm
answers.
gonna I'm gonna I'm gonna interpret unusual as unique.
Sure.
And again, I mentioned this earlier. Let me grab it real quick. Hold on. I think the reason why I'm going to call this is because not many people will have one of these. This is a Mousker, and I mentioned earlier that I won lead cast member of the year for the North Market in 2019. So I'm going to interpret unusual as unique because
Sure.
this is a authentic Walt Disney Company Mousker that's got Mickey on top, and it has my name and lead cast member of the year. I'm very proud of that because this was not my full time career, but I loved what I did at the Walt Disney Company to the point that I at one point wanted to go down to Orlando to continue my career down there. I don't know if I want to go down there right now. The climate's not that great, but that said, I would say that's the story behind it. I won it. It was completely random. I didn't even know I was up for it. And then one day I come in and I get presented with this award, and I'm like, oh my god, that's amazing. And that's for there's only 4 markets there was only 4 markets at the Disney Store, so to have one of those for the 2019 year, that was a pretty spectacular thing.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually seen one of those before, so that's pretty
Yeah,
awesome.
it's pretty neat, huh? Yeah, so there's Mickey right there. He got his hands up, a little tuxedo. So,
Very
yeah,
cool.
it's very heavy duty too. So,
Very cool.
all right.
All right. Question number 3. Imagine you have the entire world's attention for 30 seconds. What would you like to tell them? They have to listen. Everyone has to listen, and I'll filibuster for a little bit. Everyone has to listen to what you're about to tell them for the next 30 seconds. What would you like to say?
Be the best you that you can be. The world is going to tell you a lot of different things about how you should be, how you should act, the type of person you should be. In this world, it's all about love. It's all about recognition that we're all unique, and if we were all the same, it'd be a very boring place. There are going to be people who disagree with you. There are going to be people who agree with you. There are going to be people who hate you. You're the villain in somebody's story out there, but you're also the hero in somebody's story. Be the best you that you can be. Work on yourself. Be proud of what you put out. And don't ever look back. Always look forward. That's what I would say.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great words. Like, that's perfect.
Good. I
think
like that.
I think if the world could share that sentiment with each other, it'd be a lot better place.
Agreed. 100%.
Well, I think that was a good way to wrap it up with those kind words. And I think if people can't tell, you're deeply passionate about everything you do in life, and I think that is awesome. And I think it's a great addition to the league. And I wish you nothing but success. Although I do tell every team that in the interview, but I really mean it for you.
Full disclosure, right?
Yeah.
Full disclosure.
So, Casey, where can people find you? Where can people look to maybe book a trip and take care of those advantages?
Yes. So the easiest place to start is just go to my website, CaseyWooley.com. That's CaseyWooley.com. There, I've laid out kind of what my expertise is in. You can find what I like to call my planning blueprints for Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Universal, cruises, all inclusives. And this allows you to kind of fill out, say, hey, I'm interested. Here's what I'm looking to do. That goes right to my email inbox. And then from there, I will reach out to you via email or text, and we'll get the planning process started. If you're on Facebook, if you just search Magical Memories by Casey or just facebook.com/magicalcasey, you'll find me there as well. I've got, I think at this point, well over 20 different reviews, all 5-star of past clients who have used my services, so you can see what I'm all about. I'm also on Instagram, although I don't do a lot on Instagram. But again, Instagram.com/magicalcasey. And I'm on LinkedIn too, so you can find me there. I think it's just linkedin.com/in/Casey Wooley, I think is how that goes. So those would be the best places. But really, the website is kind of like my hub. As our friend Lou Mangello has told us several times, don't build your business on borrowed land. So I really like to try to drive people over to the website first, because that's really where it's at. And then get your email and we can stay in contact that way.
Sounds good. And of course, we'll link all those things into the show notes. And again, go visit Casey on his website in the link below. And then we will hopefully continue to hear from you throughout the season. I wish your Lions the best, and I hope you. Let's agree on at least a playoff berth this year is what we can aim for.
I've had a playoff before. I've been in the playoffs once before, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. I would love to. My goal, as much as I'd like to say my goal is to win, I also think that's a very high goal. I would love to find myself at the top of my division. That's my goal.
Admirable goal. There's 64 teams. I mean, there can only be one, but there's top 8 going into the playoffs. So I think even making the playoff cut would be pretty significant.
Yeah.
So
I would love to. I would love to be able to do the top of the division, but let's see. We'll see what happens. So
we'll see what happens.
All I know is I don't want whatever this darn punishment is that we're talking about. So I know. Yeah,
I put the feelers out there.
We don't do punishment. We never did punishment in the other league, so this is a new aspect. So this is interesting.
It's worth a Google. There's some pretty interesting things. No one's getting a tattoo. That like I'm gonna draw the line at that. But
I'm also not going to go run naked anywhere either. I'm just saying, I'm not doing that either. So no one wants to see that, Cory. All right, let's be honest.
Well, yeah, we'll leave it there. There have been some crazy punishments before, altering your body into ink, and nudity is probably not on the menu for the league. I think YouTube might have a problem with those things, so we'll probably get rid of those ideas. But there are some interesting ones being tossed out there, so we'll see what comes up. The Ark is what we call the worst place, and I do not want people to be in the Ark, but it is unfortunately a rite of passage to return back to the league, so it's a thing.
Okay, all right. Well, nice talking to you, Cory.
You as well. We'll see you in the league.
All right, bye.
Bye.